Hello, thank you for joining us. I am Heather Allen, the Executive Director of Renew Wisconsin, and you've arrived at the second day of the virtual Renewable Energy Summit, our 10th annual summit. And we are very excited that you are taking the time to be with us today. Presented by Arch Electric, Green Penny, and Invenergy, the theme of this year's event, Building the Clean Energy Mosaic, will highlight the diversity of technologies, people, and scale we need to shape our clean energy future. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize the history of the land. I live on land in a community in Madison, Wisconsin that was stolen from Ho-Chunk Nation, and I recognize the privilege that I experience as a result of that action. But I look forward to working with our Native nations to ensure the work that we do reflects their generations of land stewardship and natural resources stewardship. We have an amazing lineup of speakers and a virtual event space offering one-on-one meetings, virtual exhibitor booths, and daily interactive industry conversations. There is a short video tutorial to show you how to engage with exhibitors and other attendees available on the Summit webpage. Just click on My Summit for the drop-down menu and then click on the virtual event space tutorial. If at any time you have any questions or technical issues during the event, please reach out to our event support at Nonprofit Learning Lab. Their phone number is prominently displayed on the main page of the Summit website, and you can see it here. A reminder that all of our programming, with the exception of the industry sessions, will be available on demand, and you can access that programming that you missed or that you'd like to revisit by returning to the Event Hub and clicking on View Session. We will send attendees an email once all of those videos are available. Also, on the Summit webpage, you will find red boxes for the 2020 Year in Review, the Renewable Energy Awards, and the Renewable Energy Stories. These links take you to video presentations prepared by Michael Vickerman and Sam Deniski that highlight exciting renewable energy developments and progress in 2020. I'd encourage you to check those out between meetings and events on the website, the virtual event space. Also, we did have a few technical difficulties yesterday with our 2 p.m. industry sessions, but we believe we've corrected everything, and we thank you for bearing with us during our transition to a virtual summit. All of the 2 p.m. industry sessions today will be individual meetings on the event website. So you'll go to your separate link, click on that, and you can access any of those meetings. And you can also move between them simply by coming back to the event website. I'd also like to encourage you to mark your calendar for May 23rd, 2021 for our annual Ride with Renew Renewable Energy Bike Ride. It will take place in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and is presented by Xcel Energy. This summit would not be possible without the generous support of our summit sponsors. I'd like to invite you to join us in recognizing our sponsors, and my colleague Morgan Kamholtz, Renew's communications intern, will join me in naming our sponsors. Thank you to our presenting sponsors, Arch Electric, Green Penny, and Invenergy.
Thank you to our partner sponsors, Alliant Energy, CED Green Tech, Eagle Point Solar, Madison College, Northwind Solar, SC Johnson, Stantec, Wisconsin Office of Energy Innovation, and Xcel Energy.
Thank you to our leader sponsors, Applied Ecological Services, Bolt, Carlson Electric, Endries Solar and Electric, and NG North America, Focus on Energy Aptum, Foley and Lardner, Full Spectrum Solar, Madison Gas and Electric Foundation, National Grid, Sunvest Solar, Werner Electric, Westwood, Wyderk, and WPPI Energy.
Thank you to our champion sponsors, the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change, Eland Electric, Mars EOR, Good Steward Consulting, Kapur and Associates, Keys and Fox, Legacy Solar Cooperative, One Energy, Organic Valley, Ranger Power, Steigerwalt Land Services, Strategic Economic Research, Sun Badger Solar, TRC, Wisconsin Academy of Sciences, Arts and Letters, and the Wisconsin Building Trades Council.
And thank you to our advocate sponsors, Apex Clean Energy, Braun Intertech, Broadwind, Chad's Design Build, City of Madison, City of Milwaukee, Milwaukee Shines, Clean Fuel Partners, the Couillard Solar Foundation, Dairyland Power Cooperative, Energy Law Wisconsin, the Environmental Law and Policy Center, GDS Associates, Gunderson Health System, HGA Architects and Engineers, McKinstry, Midwest Solar Power, Northeast Wisconsin Technical College, Olson Solar Energy, PACE, PRC Wind, Stonehouse Development, Sustain Dane, UW Platteville, and Wisconsin Health Professionals for Climate Action, and Wisconsin Sustainable Business Council. We would now like to spotlight Jason McDuff from Greenpenny, today's presenting sponsor, for a brief address. Jason McDuff is the Vice President of Greenpenny. Money deposited in Greenpenny is secure, earns interest, and is only used to finance renewable energy projects starting with solar. Greenpenny is designed to be a form of crowdfunding for the advancement of clean and renewable energy. Take it away, Jason.
Well, thank you so much, Heather, for that nice introduction. We couldn't be more pleased to have gotten to know you and the entire team at Renew this week and over the last couple of weeks. And we look forward to working more closely with your very accomplished and wonderful organization in the months and indeed years to come. Greenpenny could not be more proud to be sponsoring a day talking about clean energy communities. This is something we know a little bit about. We come from Decorah, Iowa, very proudly so, a community that has one of the highest renewable, including solar adoption rates in the country. And that happened because a group of diverse people from different walks of life with different expertise and maybe even different political persuasions came together nonetheless and tackled something that's really difficult to do, which is a relatively rapid adoption of renewable energy in a community. And we'd like to see more of that happen in communities across Wisconsin. And of course, at Greenpenny, we can help finance that, but we'd also like to be part of models of cooperation that come together and tackle the adoption of renewable energy for all members of communities. So we hope you'll let us be a part of that. So what is Greenpenny? Well, Greenpenny is a virtual carbon neutral bank. Virtual does not mean impersonal. Virtual just means we don't have branches. We launched Greenpenny 6 months ago in the height of COVID, which was interesting in and of itself. But we learned real quick that in our hearts, we're really community bankers. And we're not great at making relationships through computers and mobile devices. We have a great digital platform, don't get me wrong. But as community bankers, we want to build relationships the old-fashioned way. Customers are not numbers to us. They're real people. They're our friends and our neighbors. And so, we want to build relationships that hopefully last a lifetime. It also means that when we get an application for a solar loan, whether it's for a home and a family, or a commercial enterprise, a nonprofit like a school district, a university, a hospital, a municipality, a church, commercial enterprise, large and small, a farm, we're going to do everything we can to try to make that work for our borrower and for us. And if we can't make it work, we're going to explain why. You're going to know why, because we're going to be transparent that way, because that's what good community bankers do. Carbon neutral. So we do in our own business practices, we try to be good stewards of the environment. So we do the obvious things like recycle, but also our buildings were built with sustainable materials. They're energy certified. We have solar panels on all of our roofs. We've got LED lighting. We don't heat our buildings even in the middle of winter. I mean, I'm freezing right now. This jumper is because I'm cold. It's for warmth. I'm kidding. We do heat our buildings. So we do things that emit carbon. So we track those. Everything from our commutes of our employees to business travel, not that there's been a lot of that lately, and other carbon emitting things. And at the end of the year, we buy offset tags, carbon offset tags through our local energy district so that we operate carbon neutrally. We think we're one of only a handful of banks that do this in the country and maybe even worldwide. And we don't do it because of our marketing statement. We do it because it's the right thing to do. And we're committed to the cause of preventing a warming planet. And we know that that takes leadership and change. So we want to lead by example and hope that others follow suit. And we're a bank. So we collect deposits and we make loans with those deposits. But at Greenpenny, as Heather said, it's a bit different in that, number one, you can know, and we hope you all consider becoming customers of Greenpenny, you can know that your hard-earned deposits are only used to finance clean energy projects. None of them are going to do things that are harmful to the environment, which other institutions, that may be the case. Ours only go to solar. They don't go to financing the fossil fuel industry. And second, we're a bank. So unlike other finance companies in this space, we have a relatively stable, low cost of funding. So we can offer very reasonable terms to our borrowers for renewable energy and solar loans. And we think that's really important too, because the economics here matter. Our customers want to do the right thing. They want to put solar on their roofs or for their businesses, but we also have to be able to afford it. So we're committed to keeping our rates reasonable so we can make good economic arguments with our customers. So that's Green Penny. We're super excited to be here. We're facilitating a couple industry conversations over the next couple of days this afternoon on energy districts. Come learn about the Winneshiek Energy District, which has been around for 10 years from our home county. You can also learn about a new energy district forming in Iowa County, Wisconsin. So the mature and the new. And then tomorrow, on the day for making room for renewables, we'll talk about how we finance solar and our philosophy at Green Penny. Come learn from our chief credit officer, our commercial lend leader, and myself, and we'll talk all about how we approach that at Green Penny. Ask us questions, get to know us, challenge us, give us feedback. We'd welcome the discussion. And finally, we've got a virtual booth. You can come meet our team. We've got Kelly, we've got Sarah. Ask her to tell you a joke. She's very funny, actually. We've got Mike, we've got Jim, we've got Ben, we've got myself, we've got Katrina, we've got Holly. Come meet us. We'd love to get to know you. We've got a special code that you can get to waive our loan origination fee on residential solar by coming and stopping by. So that's it. We're Green Penny. Hello, Wisconsin. And let's have a great day talking about something super important, how we can create clean energy communities together. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sponsoring and thank you for your remarks. And that's a great reason to visit an exhibitor booth today. If you can get that special benefit for solar loan, that's fantastic.
Yep.
So I want to thank you for being our presenting sponsor today. And it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Sandra Henry. She is the Senior Director of Energy and Sustainability at Elevate Energy. Sandra leads the implementation of Elevate Energy's clean energy initiatives, and she works with internal and external stakeholders on clean energy access and climate solutions to advance a more equitable and just clean energy future. Previously, she was the Chief Sustainability Officer for the City of Chicago, where she led the charge to advance the clean energy economy by committing Chicago to electrify its bus fleet by 2040 and to a community-wide transition to 100% renewable energy by 2035. For more than 20 years, Sandra has designed and managed energy programs for utilities in Minnesota and Illinois. She currently sits on the Institute for Market Transformation Board of Directors. We are very pleased to have her here to tell us about the efforts to expand access to renewable energy and energy efficiency and the jobs, health, and economic benefits that accompany renewables. Thank you, Sandra.
Thanks, Heather, for that lovely introduction. And it's an honor to be here to kick off today's session on creating clean energy communities. So I'm going to share my screen, I think. And just while I'm doing that, I want to share that this is my very first keynote ever. So I'm honored that Renew Wisconsin contacted me. And it's also my very first keynote virtually. So we're going to learn together. Oops. And let's start at the beginning. Let's see. Now I need to.
I think if you can just pop up to display settings on the top there.
Settings, I'm
Go
sorry.
to display settings. You see near show taskbar, then display settings. On top.
Very top. Oh, here. Here we go.
Go to display settings to the right of show taskbar.
To the right.
Yep. There's a drop-down menu immediately to the right of show taskbar that says display settings. Yep, you're almost there.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I'm sorry. Let's try that again. Okay, share screen. And now show taskbar.
So, Sandra, I think your Zoom panel might be in the way. Is your Zoom panel at the top of your screen?
Yes.
You might want to move that just down to the bottom. You can click it and drag it down.
Oh, okay. Where do I do that? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no worries. Let me see.
Yeah. Dock to bottom. Okay, here we go. All right, I got it, I think.
Got it. Okay, and then just click
All
on
right,
swap.
swap. All right.
There we go. Thanks for your patience.
Okay, thanks everybody for your patience. So back to what we were talking about. Again, thank you again, Heather, for introducing me, and it's a great honor to be here to talk about how we create clean energy communities. Can I get rid of that? So for the technical folks, are you seeing the bar at the bottom too?
No, we do not see the Zoom bar.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, so just a little bit about the agenda today. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what clean energy action looks like at Elevate, and then discuss what I believe are essentials for creating clean energy community, and share a few ideas about how we can take action, have a quick close, and then hopefully open it up for questions. So what is Elevate up to when it comes to clean energy action? First of all, our mission is smarter energy use for all. And we just finished our 3-year strategic plan, and I'm very excited about that. And I just want to share a couple of thoughts about our vision for the next 3 years. By 2024, Elevate will have improved the lives of over 1 million people and made the properties they use healthier and more efficient. And in that process, we'll have saved 250,000 metric tons of carbon, and we'll have reinvested over $100 million back into the communities where we live, work, and play. And the how is even more exciting to me. The how is we are going to be innovative partners in a just transition to more resilient cities, communities, and households. And we will support a transition that delivers environmental justice, increases health, builds equity and intergenerational wealth while combating climate change and preparing for its effects. So big, super exciting goals there. And I think just centers for me why we're here talking about building clean energy communities. So how does Elevate do that right now? Currently, we administer Illinois Solar for All on behalf of the Illinois Power Authority, and Illinois Solar for All aims to expand equitable access to solar energy for renters and under-resourced households. A lot of our work is focused on assessments, primarily energy efficiency assessments, and we work mostly with multifamily buildings, but we do have some single family homes sprinkled in. And once we complete an assessment, we can provide recommendations on energy efficiency, water safety measures. We can talk about how to prevent asthma. We also make lead abatement recommendations for homes. And then we can also make recommendations on how to electrify multifamily buildings. Our programs prioritize communities that have been traditionally left out of the clean energy movement, and that includes renters, nonprofits, low income and public housing, and underinvested cities and counties. Oops, did I go the wrong way? I guess I did. So I want to just share a quick example or highlight a case study. Talk about Miss Ellis for a minute. Miss Ellis owns a 6-flat in the Inglewood neighborhood in Chicago. And she called us one day in February and let us know that her monthly gas bill had increased over $10,000. And she was very concerned that she could be disconnected and even potentially lose her home, which has been in her family for decades. So Elevate was able to get out there the next day. We found a gas leak. We were able to repair the leak and then also replace her boiler and we reduced her bill back to normal. And so she's continuing to be able to provide safe and affordable housing in Inglewood. So I think that just highlights kind of all the things that we do in terms of working with diverse communities in our area. We also are active in job creation in the clean energy economy and also supporting contractors that are interested in growing their businesses in solar and energy. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in our discussion. The next thing I want to shift to is just to talk a little bit about why diversity, racial equity, and inclusion is essential to creating clean energy communities. And I want to float a vision. And here it is. If we're truly aiming for creating sustainable towns, cities, counties, and states that run and ultimately thrive on clean energy, then everyone must participate. And that means everyone, young, old, poor, wealthy, Black, brown, Indigenous people of color. Everyone's voices must be heard, and everyone must have a seat at the table. So keeping that vision in mind, I want to just share a couple of other thoughts related to what we should be thinking about when we're ad- aiming to create diverse clean energy communities. I want to just shed a little light on the under-resourced communities or families and energy burden. These folks are typically not at the table when we're talking about clean energy, sustainability, or even energy efficiency, but they spend a lot of their income on energy. And we know that energy efficiency and renewable energy can reduce the energy burden for these folks. And this is why I feel like it's important that we consider them in the conversation. And this idea is what makes Elevate and organizations like Renew so special, because collectively we can address energy inequity on both ends of the spectrum. We can build a workforce that implements clean energy projects, and we can deliver programs that bring benefits of energy efficiency and renewable energy to the folks that need it the most. And I think sharing this data point just for me raises the awareness of why clean energy projects and jobs are critical and necessary. Next, I want to take a look at Wisconsin and the clean energy jobs landscape in Wisconsin. And just if you're curious, Illinois and other states in the Midwest, the numbers are similar. So by far, most of the clean energy jobs right now are in energy efficiency. And small businesses are driving the clean energy sector for the Midwest. In fact, about 70% of the businesses operating in the clean energy sector are employing less than 20 people. So it's a clear driver there. And also just want to make a note and acknowledge that COVID-19 has definitely caused job losses. And in Wisconsin, I think as of the end of November, we've seen a net loss of about 8,000 jobs. But there's also good news in that despite COVID, Focus on Energy has received residential solar rebate applications that have increased in 2020 by more than double from the previous year. And before we move on, I just want to focus a little bit on the graphic on the right side of the slide, which shows who's working in the clean energy workforce in Wisconsin. And right now it's not quite diverse. We're getting there, and I think it just indicates that we have some more work to do in supporting jobs and developing businesses that work in this area. So if you still are on board with the vision that, you know, if we're going to create clean energy communities, that everybody must be included. When we're thinking about policies, programming, or other ideas that can advance clean energy communities, let's design the solutions with intent, solutions that prioritize and incentivize clean energy projects for Black, brown, and under-resourced communities. Let's create clean energy solutions that focus on affordable housing and shared public buildings. And let's catalyze job creation and biz development that reflects the diversity of our local communities. As an example of a policy or policy ideas, I wanted to touch a little bit about the Future Energy Jobs Act and the Clean Energy Jobs Act in Illinois. The good news with FEJA, or Future Energy Jobs Act, which was CEJA's predecessor, is that we had some successes, and it really set the table for CEJA, which is currently not quite passed yet in Illinois, but we're hoping it will be soon. The good news with FEJA is we did have some successes. We had also some challenges. About 90 to 95% of the dollars that were made available through FEJA still went to majority businesses and organizations, but CEJA aims to correct that. And I just want to call attention to the adjustable block program set-asides. And in this case, of the dollars set aside for solar projects, CEJA is aiming to set aside about 40% of those dollars in the block for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. So I think that's good news there. And then for the programs, a lot of those were started with FIJA, and now our aim is to just make those programs better, to standardize some of the practices that the operations that occur with the programs, and then to focus a little bit more on energy efficiency workforce development. FIJA focused on solar, and now CEJA aims to expand that. Another great tool for accelerating clean energy communities is to focus on developing clean energy jobs. And Elevate is working in a couple of areas. We manage programs, a solar jobs training program, and also a contractor accelerator. And I know in Wisconsin, there are several renewable energy job training programs available now. Midwest Renewable Energy Association offers trainings, as well as Wisconsin Technical Colleges. Sun Peak and the Urban League have partnered to connect communities of color to jobs, and the city of Madison has a green jobs program for training solar installers. So the good news is we have a lot of programming out there to help diversify the workforce, and we just need to keep helping those programs grow. So I want to just quick share a little case study, solar entrepreneurs story in Chicago, really because I love the name Boyfriend in a Box. I just think that is really cool. So Andre White is the owner, and he started his full-time business in 2019 after a few years of doing handyman jobs on the side. And so he decided to launch into solar, and he brought on an electrician to help him, and he acquired his certifications to become a solar installer. And he also realized he needed some back office support. So Elevate was able to connect him with an organization called Business Services Collective, which helped him get an accountant and build his financial infrastructure. And of course, he was working when COVID hit, and because he had the financial infrastructure in place, he was able to enroll in the payroll protection program quite easily. So I think this is just highlights an example of how incubator, or how you can wrap your arms around diverse contractors in the solar and energy sector. And this slide, I really just wanted to emphasize like how important it is in building community strength, and how important those relationships are, and that it does take everyone to support policy and deploy programs that will help us build clean energy communities. And I want to just take a second and reflect on, if we still agree with the vision that everybody must participate. We've talked about the hows and the whys. The next thing is to answer the question, what can we do? And I have a list of potential ideas. It's not exhaustive, but it's program concepts and ideas that I have encountered during my career. So I wanted to just share those with you. First, easy one is to start small and look within. Examine your internal purchasing practices. For example, a friend of mine, when we were convening meetings and meeting in person, suggested if you're catering a meal, because we often do that if we're convening, are you seeking out a diverse caterer? Think about other things that you purchase to support your business, and think about who's supplying those services. Are they diverse? Um, Same thing along the lines of your product supply chain. If you are a solar developer, are your solar panels being provided by diverse contractors? Or if you buy light bulbs because you're a direct install company, are those light bulbs supplied by a diverse supplier? Think about what your future team should look like. Do you want your team to be diverse? What does it look like today? And if you are having trouble finding diverse candidates, there are resources that can help you with that. I'm sure Renew Wisconsin could help you think through how you find diverse candidates. But the other option would be to cultivate a diverse workforce in your community. Go to your high schools. They have career fairs. Tell your story about working in the clean energy community and or economy and how exciting it is, and talk about the opportunities that are available there. And if you have a couple of interested students after you're talking, if you can, bring them on as an intern for the summer. And if you're unable to bring on an intern, become a mentor. There are lots of students out there that would love to be able to work with someone in the clean energy economy right now. Another great idea is just as for organizations to collectively create an incubator to support small, diverse businesses that want to grow in this sector. And I think Boyfriend in a Box is a great example of that. And the last idea I'll leave you with is something I discovered when I was the Chief Sustainability Officer for the city of Chicago. If you think about how funding gets dispersed to communities from government entities, often it comes down in block grants, and those funds are distributed to local fiscal agents, usually in the form of nonprofits that have finance and reporting infrastructure available to track the funds and make sure the projects or the money is being spent where it should be. And those fiscal agents are often not diverse. And I feel like if we were able to diversify the fiscal agent pool, that if we could get some of that funding to diverse fiscal agents, it would get to the communities that need it even faster. So those are a few ideas of how we can take action in our communities and advance us further to developing diverse, clean energy communities. So in closing, I just want to reflect on this for a minute, on this photo and on the vision of what a diverse clean energy community can look like and how we get there. And for me, answering that question is a multi-layered conversation that's steeped in equity, equality, privilege, underinvestment, history, race and ethnicity, differences, and otherness. And the list is long, I could go on, but I think we're here and having this conversation today because we believe it's important. The conversation is important. And because we're willing to dive in and navigate what could be unknown and maybe even uncomfortable waters. So where do we start? 4 things come to mind. Conversations are key, relationships are key, words are important, intention is important. So once we kind of get settled in and we we set our intention to help build diverse clean energy communities, think about who you know. Make a list of the organizations or communities that you want to build relationships with and get to know them. Learn their missions, their goals, desires, dreams, and aspirations. Approach them with a desire to learn and to understand. And remember, the folks that you're reaching out to, they may already have a vision for what a sustainable clean energy future looks like for them. So remember, let's not walk in thinking we have all the answers. Practice active listening, be present, and when the time is right, ask the question, how can I help? And then be ready. Be ready to be a door opener, be ready to be an amplifier, be a connector, and help share their stories. And with that, I want to thank you all for inviting me to kick off today's sessions on creating clean energy communities. And I think we have time for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sandra. Yes, I'm going to jump in with a question that I had prepared, but I want to encourage audience members to participate in the conversation with your ideas and your questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A. That would be really helpful. I wanted to ask you, what are the biggest barriers to community engagement in energy issues? When you're really working on the ground with communities that you've worked with, especially in Chicago, how have you overcome those barriers, and what are the most important things for us to do as we're thinking about expanding the group of people who are engaged on energy issues?
So that's a long question, but I'll start with the barriers piece, and maybe you can help me like remember what other pieces you were asking. But I think in my experience in Chicago, and I'll go back to working as a chief sustainability officer and experience past, is Chicago is a very segregated city. And a lot of the resources have been spent in neighborhoods that are not Black and Brown and Indigenous people of color. So one barrier, I think, has been just to understand that divide and then how to overcome it and how to incorporate having conversations of diversity and reminding folks in the decision-making seats that we have to think about the policies that will include everyone. And I have examples, but I think let's just talk a little bit more about what else was in your question, Heather.
Well, my next question is, how do you reach out to those community members and community organizations that are not at every table and need to be there for decision making to be more equitable?
Yes, that's a great question. So stakeholder engagement is really, really important. And right now, Elevate is helping the current chief sustainability officer for the city of Chicago reach out to those stakeholders and help the city establish what the next version of our sustainability practice and policies will be. And it's really starts with a conversation. There are folks within Elevate and within the city of Chicago that are connected to the communities. So the important thing is to identify those folks and then have listening sessions. Have set up short meetings with groups or folks, people that you know are connected, and have a conversation with them about what's important, what's missing, what do you need, who should be at the table, who are we missing. And we're currently helping the city kind of mobilize those forces and figure out like who we should be talking to. So the folks that are included are the architects, engineers, policymakers, but then there are also community organizations that have been around for a very long time that are on the ground, Urban League, Blacks in Green, and usually there are folks in your community that know who you should be talking to. So the key is finding those one or two people, maybe three, that can help you get connected. So that's a good way to start, but it really starts with the conversation.
Right, right. And I think we're getting a number of great conversations going in the chat about the various programs in Wisconsin. There are a number of programs, including several in Milwaukee, that we didn't yet mention. But there is definitely room to ramp up our on-ramp to onboarding diverse communities into renewable energy jobs in Wisconsin. I've got a great question from Don Wickert in the Q&A here. Are there special incentives, programs, or policies that can be used to get solar on low-income households?
Yes. And I'm not the solar expert, so I'll just caveat my answer with that. But Illinois Solar for All, the program that Elevate administers on behalf of the Illinois Power Agency, is an example of that program. And I'm gonna just give me a second to find that slide because I've got notes. So by statute, Illinois Solar for All does not allow upfront costs, which means there's no cost to the consumer until the panels are generating electricity and seeing savings. And so no upfront costs means that there are no payments from the customer, and the approved vendor is involved in helping finance those projects. There are tax incentives in Illinois that essentially pay for the installation. And so the real cost for the approved vendors working in the program is around customer acquisition. So I think Illinois Solar for All is a great example of that. Did that help answer the question?
Sure. So can you tell me a little bit about, in practice, how's that work? If I'm a low-income resident and I would like to get solar on my house, how do I access the Illinois for Solar for All program, and what are the first couple steps of that process?
So again, I'm going to caveat with I don't manage that program, but I think how it works is either the homeowner or the renter is contacting Elevate, and there's a list of approved vendors that's on the Illinois Solar for All website. And those vendors have been kind of vetted and approved to work in this program. Or it could happen that the approved vendor is recruiting projects and calling homeowners and renters to bring them into the program. And once that happens, then the property owner and the approved vendor enter into a contract where the solar developer builds the system and takes care of the upfront costs and then sells the electricity. And that's kind of a high level version of how that can work.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
I would direct you to the Illinois Solar for All website for more information on those details. Or I can connect you with the program manager at Elevate that could go into more detail on how it works.
Great, thank you. Let's jump to another question. Can you talk a bit more, this is from Kathy Kuntz in the Q&A, can you talk a bit more about Elevate's work with landlords? It seems there's a lot of challenges getting landlords to do energy efficiency or renewable energy projects. And how do you overcome those challenges working with landlords to do this type of energy work?
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for the question. So for energy efficiency, usually it's the property owner, if we're talking about multifamily units, that's contacting the utility because they qualify for our programs and they want us to conduct an assessment for the building and then make recommendations on how to make the building more energy efficient. So we work with the property owner or property manager of those buildings rather than the individual units, which makes it makes it much easier to help advance and improve energy efficiency of the building in total. For solar, again, I think it's along the same lines that the property owner, if they wanted to put solar on their building, would need to work with an approved vendor and work through the contract. And I think the difference would be that with a property owner, the approved vendor and the owner are in contract, but the renter is purchasing the electricity. And again, if you want more detail on this very specific mechanisms for that, I can connect you to the program manager at Elevate for more detail.
Yeah, that reminds me that Sustain Dane here in Dane County and Elevate are actually working together with affordable housing providers here in Dane County to put together some really tailored solutions for local landlords to do both energy efficiency and renewables on a sort of a building by building case where they look at what the building needs and work together.
Yeah, and Abby Corso she's with Elevate and she's based in Madison, and I think she's spearheading those programs. I don't know if she's on, but she might be able to respond to folks in the chat about that activity in Wisconsin.
Wonderful. Well, we're getting some great comments in the chat. I want to mention something that Kermit Hovey is saying here, that building a diverse clean energy community will require working with groups that are not necessarily interested or active in clean energy. And so we may be asking them to teach us. In the Madison area, we have a very well-respected and prominent Dr. Alex G. from Nehemiah, who is teaching courses in African-American history to help build community understanding of our community. And so he put a link in the chat to help us start building those connections and building those relationships. So
excellent.
I encourage you to check that out. This is for everyone. And I would mention that this afternoon, we're going to dive more deeply into this workforce issue at the 1 o'clock session, talking about the renewable energy workforce and economic engine in Wisconsin. So please jump back on for that. And just one last question for you, Sandra.
Sure.
Looking forward to 2021, what clean energy job trends are you anticipating, especially with respect to bringing more diverse communities into accessing those jobs?
I think electrification is going to be exciting.
Mhm.
Then we're currently working on some ideas about how you could electrify multifamily units, um, heat pump technology, and just understanding like what happens to the service panels for the unit and for the building, because if you're electrifying everything, you're gonna need to adjust the panel. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity from installing, electric technologies to how you serve the building electrically. I think there's going to be a lot of growth and exploration in that area as well. I'm optimistic that despite our COVID challenges, that we're going to see continued growth in solar programming, solar installations. My hope is that we start to see more diverse solar developers, and kind of getting back to that incubator issue. Our idea is everybody needs to be at the table. So I'm excited to see what 2021 is going to bring in that area.
We are too. We are too. Thank you so much for being with us today, Sandra. It's been a wonderful conversation, and thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. If you'd like to continue the conversation, we encourage you to try to connect with our panelists. They're available for one-on-one meetings through the website platform. So if you go back to your home base on the website, you can actually set up meetings with individual panelists and keep these conversations going. You can learn how to do that with the short event tutorial that we mentioned earlier. And also, we've got a series of more sessions coming up. I'd like to thank again Green Penny for sponsoring this session. Many of our sponsors are represented in the virtual exhibitor space. Please visit them at their exhibits and take advantage of that. Many have virtual video meeting space hours scheduled where you can pop in for an immediate conversation with those organizations and have a one-on-one. And in just a moment, we'll take you to a 10-minute break where we'll encourage you to step away from your computer, have a cup of coffee, check out your email, and then join us back at 10 o'clock sharp, where we will move to the local government and community leadership on renewable energy in Wisconsin panel. That's going to be a really exciting session with a focus on how local governments and community leaders are leading the charge for renewable energy in Wisconsin. So thank you so much, Sandra, for your time today. Thank you to Green Penny for
Thanks.
sponsoring this session. And,
Thank you.
I got through that a little faster than I thought. So can we just squeeze in one more question, Sandra?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
So we're going to talk at 10 o'clock about Wisconsin communities that are setting their own 100% clean energy goals and how. Can you tell us a little bit about your work with the city of Chicago in advancing 100% clean energy there? Just the highlights, just in the last 2 minutes.
Oh yeah, that was fun. It was Sierra Club. We, they have the initiative to what is it? I can't think of it now off the top of my head. But it's like, getting to 100 by a certain date, 100% clean energy. And as CSO, I have relationships with Sierra Club and many different communities that are pushing for clean energy by a certain date. And so I turned to some folks within Sierra Club and other community advisors about how to craft this policy or ordinance. Actually is what we did. We ended up writing an ordinance or drafting an ordinance. And I went to my boss, who's the chief policy officer for the mayor, and I said, this is what I wanted. I want to see if we can pass this ordinance. We could have, had a declaration but an ordinance, you have to actually do the work. So I thought if we can get this ordinance passed with specific targets about clean energy by a certain date, even, as administrations change, the ordinance stays. And once I got past the policy officer, it was a matter of getting it on the docket for consideration for city council. And the mayor supported it. The mayor at the time was Mayor Emanuel, and it passed. And That's really high level how it works. So you got to have a supportive mayor. City council definitely is supportive of clean energy, and so all those things came together for us to pass the ordinance. And now the current CSO is working to make sure that that the ordinance is fulfilled.
Wonderful. Well, that is a perfect segue. So we're going to turn to our 10-minute break, but please come back at 10 o'clock. We're going to talk about how the city of Eau Claire and how Dane County and how the Bad River Tribe are doing exactly what you talked about, putting together the right ordinances, the right plans, and the right projects to transition their communities to renewable energy in Wisconsin. So thanks again,
Awesome.
Sandra. This was a
Thank
wonderful
you.
conversation. We'll see you all at
Thanks.
10 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye-bye.